When I was 20, I took a summer job at a dusty old boarding house in coastal Maine, hoping to save enough for college. The place was ancient, with creaking floors and a faint smell of mildew that never left. The owner, Mrs. Harrow, was a frail woman with sharp eyes who warned me never to enter room 13 without knocking 3 times. She said it with such intensity that I laughed it off as superstition. Until the first night I heard the singing. The boarding house sat on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, its weathered shingles groaning under every storm. It had been in Mrs. Harrow's family for decades, passed down like a burden. My job was simple: clean the rooms, handle check-ins, and keep the place running. Most guests were drifters or retirees, staying a night or 2 before moving on. Room 13, though, was different. It was always locked, always empty, according to Mrs. Harrow. "No one stays there," she'd said, her voice tight. "Not unless they ask for it." The first few days were uneventful. I swept floors, changed linens, and ignored the odd noises, creaks, thumps, the usual complaints of an old building. But on my 3rd night, as I locked up the front desk around 1 a.m., I heard it, a soft, lilting voice, like a child singing a lullaby. It came from upstairs, faint but clear, drifting down the hallway. I froze, keys jangling in my hand. The guests were all asleep, and Mrs. Harrow lived in a cottage out back. I was alone. I followed the sound, my sneakers silent on the worn carpet. The singing grew clearer as I reached the 2nd floor, coming from the direction of room 13. The door was closed, the brass number glinting under the dim hallway light. I pressed my ear to the wood, heart pounding. The voice was sweet but wrong, like a melody played on a broken instrument. It stopped abruptly, replaced by a single, sharp knock from inside. I stumbled back, my breath catching. Mrs. Harrow's rule echoed in my mind. 3 knocks, always. I didn't knock. I didn't dare. Instead, I hurried downstairs, locked myself in the office, and sat there until dawn, jumping at every creak. When Mrs. Harrow arrived in the morning, I told her what I'd heard. Her face went pale, her hands trembling as she clutched her shawl. "You didn't knock, did you?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head. She exhaled, but her eyes stayed haunted. "Good. Don't ever respond. It's not a guest." I wanted to ask what she meant, but she waved me off, muttering about errands. That day, I couldn't focus. The boarding house felt heavier, the air thick with something unspoken. I avoided the 2nd floor, sticking to the lobby and kitchen, but curiosity gnawed at me. Why was room 13 off limits? What was she hiding? That evening, Mrs. Harrow left early, saying she'd be back by midnight. She gripped my arm before leaving, her fingers bony but strong. "Stay out of room 13, no matter what you hear," she said. "Promise me." I nodded, but her warning only fueled my need to know. The singing, the knock, it felt personal, like it was calling me. Around 2 a.m., the house was silent, except for the distant crash of waves. I was reorganizing the guest log when the singing started again. Softer this time, almost pleading. It came from upstairs, same as before. I told myself to ignore it, to follow Mrs. Harrow's rules, but the sound tugged at me, pulling me toward the stairs. I grabbed the master key from the desk, my hands shaking. I wasn't going to open the door. Just look, just listen. The hallway was colder than it should have been, the air heavy like a storm was brewing inside. Room 13's door loomed at the end, its paint chipped, the brass number slightly askew. The singing stopped as I approached, replaced by 3 slow knocks, deliberate and loud. I froze, my hand hovering over the key. 3 knocks. My promise to Mrs. Harrow screamed in my head, but I couldn't walk away. I knocked back 3 times, just as she'd instructed. The door clicked, like a lock turning on its own. My heart slammed against my ribs as I pushed it open, the hinges groaning. Inside, the room was small and bare. A single bed, a cracked mirror, a wooden chair. The air was freezing, my breath visible in the moonlight streaming through the window. There was no one here, yet the singing started again, coming from the walls themselves, soft and mournful. I stepped inside, the floor creaking under my weight. The door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, grabbing the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged as the singing grew louder, now joined by a faint whisper. My name, spoken so clearly it sent a chill down my spine. Elliot, it said. Not angry, not sad, just certain. I backed away, my eyes darting around the room. The mirror caught my reflection, but something was wrong. My shadow moved when I didn't, shifting slightly to the left, like it was watching me. I pounded on the door, yelling for help, but the sound barely carried, like the room swallowed it. The singing stopped, and the air grew heavier, pressing against my chest. Then I saw it, a small, handwritten note tucked under the chair, yellowed with age. I knelt, my hands trembling as I picked it up. It read, "Stay, she needs you." I dropped the note, my stomach twisting. Who is she? Why did it know my name? I didn't wait for answers. I grabbed the chair and smashed it against the door until the wood splintered, freeing me into the hallway. I ran downstairs, locked myself in the office, and stayed there until Mrs. Harrow returned at dawn. She knew something was wrong the moment she saw me. I told her everything. The singing, the knocks, the note. Her face crumpled, and for the first time, she looked old, fragile. "You went in," she whispered, not a question. She sat down heavily, her hands clasped. "I should have told you more, but I thought it'd keep you safe," she explained in a low voice. Decades ago, her great-aunt ran the boarding house. A young girl, maybe 10, had stayed in room 13 with her mother, a quiet woman who paid in cash and kept to herself. One night, the mother vanished, leaving the girl behind. The great-aunt took her in, but the girl was strange, always singing, always watching, like she was waiting for something. Then, one stormy night, she disappeared too. No body, no trace, just an empty room and a note. "I'll stay." Since then, room 13 was never rented. Guests who stayed nearby complained of singing, knocks, or a child's shadow in the hallway. Mrs. Harrow's family tried sealing the room, even boarding it up, but the door always unlocked itself. "She doesn't leave," Mrs. Harrow said, her voice trembling. "She chooses someone to notice her, to listen, and now she's chosen you." I wanted to laugh it off, to call it a ghost story, but the note, the singing, my name, it was too real. "What does she want?" I asked. Mrs. Harrow's eyes darkened. "Attention, connection. She's lonely, but giving her what she wants, it binds you to her. You've already heard her. That's enough for her to follow." I didn't sleep that night. The boarding house felt alive, watching me. The next day, I noticed small things. My keys moved from the desk to the counter. My jacket zipped when I'd left it open. At night, the singing returned. Now outside my window, soft and insistent. I kept the lights on, the curtains drawn, but I could feel her, close, waiting. A week later, I found another note in my bag, written in the same childish scrawl. "You promised." I hadn't promised anything, but the words felt like a weight on my chest. I confronted Mrs. Harrow, demanding answers. She looked defeated. "She thinks you're hers now," she said. "Because you knocked. Because you answered." I quit that day, packing my things and leaving without looking back. Mrs. Harrow didn't try to stop me, just handed me an envelope with my pay and whispered, "Don't come back, Elliot. Don't give her a reason to find you." I moved to Boston, then Chicago, trying to outrun the feeling of being watched, but it followed. My apartment keys would vanish, only to reappear in odd places. At night, I'd hear faint singing, always the same lullaby, always just out of reach. Once, I woke to find my bedroom door ajar, 3 small knocks echoing in the silence. Years later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a lawyer in Maine. Mrs. Harrow had died in her sleep, and the boarding house was being sold. "She left something for you," he said. Against my better judgment, I drove back. The house looked abandoned, its windows dark, the cliffside eroded. The lawyer handed me a small box. Inside was a key, the master key from the boarding house, and a note in that same childish scrawl. "Come back." I burned the note and threw the key into the ocean. That night, I drove until dawn, checking my rearview mirror, half expecting to see a small figure in the back seat. The singing stopped after that, but the feeling never did. Every creak, every shadow, every unlocked door, it's her, reminding me she's still there, waiting for me to knock again.